As you can see, we have a Game Boy. It is not working. Now, I picked this up at a collector con in my hometown recently. I'll say 70, but I did actually get it for 50. I had a nice chat with them. And yeah, so we've got the Game Boy. We have the original owner's manual and warranty registration card. I wonder if that's filled in. No, it's just the thing explaining, you know, to go and do your warranty. And then epilepsy warning and precautions. Yeah, just typical stuff that would have come in the box. And we also got a transfer cable, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, so that'll go on the extension connector there, allow you to link up to another Game Boy for transferring, you know, Pokemons, and I think you can do that for some multiplayer games. I remember there was a 4-player box for one of the F1 games that I had as a kid. That was awesome. And yeah, let's see why they think it's not working. First glance, it's actually in pretty good condition. It's a little bit of scuffs here and there. The screen, the glass has just some marks on it that might wash off. I don't know if that's coming through. Buttons feel good. We've got a back cover, which is good. All the screws are in place. Off. Card edge connector looks nice. Is there any battery corrosion? Yes, so there is a little bit of corrosion there and there. Isn't the worst thing because the contacts in general look pretty good. Let's just pop some batteries in and see what we get. Got 4 AA's here. Now, typically, if you just pop some AA's in, Game Boy of this age, it won't work because, yeah, either the contacts are bad or the DC converter board for the batteries, the input is bad. But these, yeah, I'm getting no life whatsoever, so that's pretty much to be expected. That's probably why they marked it as not working. I'm going to pop in some power, I think it's 6 volts, into the DC 6 volt input into the barrel jack on the side there. So let me get that set up. Now, I cannot remember if this is center positive or not. There it is, yep. So, I don't know if it's coming through, but it does indeed say DC 6 volts and it's center negative. Yeah, okay, so I've got this wired up. Let's see what we got. So it should be center negative. So if we've got negative there, so positive on the outside, center on the inside, and we are not getting negative, so that is correct. All right, let's run that up. There we go, power. Oh, yeah. I can see a couple of missing lines on the side here though. So the screen is going to need a bit of work, but otherwise we've got contrast. That seems to, yeah, there you go. You can see the missing lines there if we turn the contrast all the way out. So yeah, the LCD is going to need a bit of work, but otherwise that's looking pretty good. I should get a cart and we can test that out. All right, I'll be back in a sec. Well, what better to test with than my all-time favourite game, Kirby's Dream Land 2? Well, for the Game Boy at least. Alright. We got nothing. Well, that doesn't bode well, because I know this does work. So let's give that just a touch of a clean. Drop some alcohol there. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Great sound. Yep. Yeah, it's working perfect. Alright, like I said, those lines are missing. So that does suck a bit. In the volume. Yeah. There's not even any distortion from the speaker. Which tells me this doesn't really need a recap either. I think all we need to really do is tidy that screen up and get the batteries working, and give this glass a bit of a well, it's a plastic, but the the screen protector here a bit of a clean, just to get this this muck off, this marks or whatever it is. Don't even know what they are. Yeah, they're really in the plastic there. I might end up just removing that glass and putting a fresh one on. But yeah, let's crack this open and see what it looks like on the inside. Try to figure out why the battery's not working. For opening up a Game Boy, you do need the little tri-wing, and these screws are all the same, so you don't need to worry about where they came from. So there's the 4 on the back here, and then there's 2 in the battery compartment as well. Okay, now when you open a Game Boy, you need to make sure, because there is a ribbon at the top here, and you open it, fold it over like that, and that will reveal. Yeah, and you can then just pull this ribbon out like so to separate the 2 halves. There you go. All right, so what do we have here? It doesn't actually look too corroded in here, because normally you would see a lot more damage from the battery corrosion coming through and hitting that board, around here, and this is actually absolutely pristine inside. Like, there's just a bit of that corrosion coming through, but otherwise it is looking fantastic. I don't think I've ever actually seen a Game Boy this clean on the inside. I don't even think we'd need to recap any of this. Like, these capacitors look fine. Let's take a look at the main board. So this is the one that contains the CPU and everything. Let's get that off there and check that corrosion. And we see the powerhouse behind the original Game Boy, which is the DMG CPU right there, 1989. And yes, now you can see that corrosion a bit more closely on the back of those terminals. Does actually look pretty bad. So that will be the reason that our batteries are not working. What happens is, the spring's obviously not making a good contact to the metal backing plate. There's just going to be too much corrosion and a high resistance effectively. So you can probably prove that out. If we just pop our meter into ohms mode here. And then if I test to the pad right there, if I can get in, and test to the spring, and you can see how many kilo ohms, that's 130, 150, just going up. It's acting as a capacitor, which, it should be 0. Like, if we test here, this one to the end there, you can see that we're in the tens of ohms, 1, 2, 3 ohms or something. This one, we should get down, now we're in mega ohms. It should be practically nothing. So what's happening is there's just current, it can't get out of the batteries and into the thing. So we will need to clean this terminal up. I might end up actually just removing that, desoldering this, take it off the board, and soak it in probably some vinegar or some citric acid maybe. Yeah, okay. All right, let's take a look at the screen board now. So this is the one that has the screen, obviously. There's the speaker, little 8 ohm jobby. And we've got a handful of screws and a lot of capacitors. These, again, sound was good, the video was good. I don't think we're going to have any problems here. So what I do want to do though is take a look at that screen, because it was showing those dead lines on the side. And there we go. Okay, so now that we've got underneath there, we can also see the carbon contacts for the switches, the buttons. I would probably like to just give those a bit of a tidy up, like a rub down, because the carbon does wear off over time, especially on the sides, and just, like I said, there you can see how dirty they are underneath there. Years of grime and grit and whatnot have gotten underneath there, so this is just a good precaution. The LCD, we need to fix the lines on the side here. Now, the way to do that, in my opinion, the best way is just to replace this screen with the IPS backlit screens. They are absolutely phenomenal looking. They're relatively inexpensive as well, and you just get such a perfect example of a modern, usable Game Boy. The way that this works is underneath this little black strip here, connections between the ribbon here, the driver IC, and the actual LCD itself, with a bit of alcohol underneath there to help break that down. There is a glue under here. Yeah, so the glue has separated, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. Alright, we'll just need to remove that glue. Okay, so we now have that really nice and clean. You can see there, just up here, there is this PCB is effectively bonded to the glass of the liquid crystal display there, and underneath there are the electromechanical connections. It's not quite a solder joint, but they're bonded effectively, and the electronic path between this ribbon cable goes into the contacts on the glass itself, and then that is what drives the liquid crystal display. Now, in order to see what we're doing, we're going to have to kind of put the Game Boy back together. Okay, and then if we turn it on, you can see I've actually damaged it a bit more. But let's turn the contrast all the way up, and so you can see those lines. Now, what I can do, I'll show you. If I grab my, let's grab a dry Q-tip, and if I just press down here, you can see those lines change as I apply pressure to different locations. So what's actually happening is the bond between that PCB and the glass is actually breaking down. And this happens over time, and that's what we're going to be fixing here. So yeah, so you can see those lines, like that line right there, if I press over here, comes and goes. And likewise on the end here, you can see some of those lines come and go as I get there. But yep, so let's fix that. I need to warm up my soldering iron, and I need to make sure I have a flat tip. So I'm going to be using this one, which you can see there has a good wedge on it. Can't remember what tip this is. It's a T18. Now I'm going to set this relatively low for me. I normally have my iron at 400, but I'm going to be dropping it down today to 300. That is Celsius. I'm not really soldering anything. I just need the heat to reflow what's already there underneath that pad, underneath that PCB. All right, we are at 300. So now what I'll do, very clean tip. I'm just gonna wipe it on my iron, on my sponge a whole bunch, just to get the tip as pristine as possible. And I'm just gonna start running the iron back and forth over these lines, and you can see there that as they heat up underneath, well, it's getting worse, but then it's getting better. And eventually, when it cools, they'll be fixed. Now, I'm not applying much pressure. I'm mostly just applying heat. So as you can see there now, that side is solid all the way to the end. So now I'm going to do the other side as well. Some of that heat up in there. And it'll start to reflow those connections underneath. There we go. Oh, no, that one's still a little bit fuzzy. That looks great. Now, just adjust the contrast back and forth a bit until you can verify. Now, I can still see there's a bit of a line there in some mid-contrast areas. So I'm going to drop the contrast just a touch, and then I'm going to go back and heat it again. Okay. Solid contrast all the way, and all the way up and down. I think that has got it. That looks terrific now. Very cool. Okay. Well, I'll just bring that up a bit so you can see it much more closely. Beautiful line all the way out to the sides, nice and square and solid. Now what we need to do is get the rubber back on here. Now this is just used for kind of like constant pressure. It just adds that little bit of gap between the screen and this rubber here for when it goes back in there. And well, we can't just glue it back in. You don't want glue on this joint. So what I'll be doing instead is using a little bit of double-sided tape. I'm just going to stick that like so. Let's pin that down to the board and just tidy it up. And there we have a piece ready to be stuck back down. Okay, let's give that one more verify before we button it back up. Oh no, we've lost another line there. That's no good. All right, well, we'll just have to do it again. Adjusting while I'm pressing. Much better. Okay, cool. Now that we've got the screen sorted out, let's get this back apart and we can look at repairing this springy boy there. So like I said, I'm just gonna desolder that connector and see about getting that off and cleaned. Okay, yeah, you can see just how destroyed that is. So yeah, that'll need a good bit of cleaning up. Okay, let's take the other one off while we're here, so we can make sure that we get back good as new on both sides. Like I said, could just use some acid. There's a lot of plaque buildup on that. They are pretty disgusting. Yeah. Well, first of all, let's see what happens if we just pop a bit of vinegar on them. Great time, pop those in there. Now I just have a little drop bottle of white vinegar here. So I'm just going to bloop, bloop, bloop some of that on there. You can see it fizzing up immediately. And that's the vinegar just disintegrating and reacting with the acid. Let's take a look. Now you can see the negative terminal here, sorry, this is the positive terminal, is already just looking spectacular to where it was. It's brightened up immediately. So let's pop that there. Let's take a look at the negative terminal here. Yeah, there's still a bit on there, so let's just leave that vinegar a bit longer. So this is some denatured water, or demineralized water I should say. So that's just going to rinse off the vinegar. And stop that reaction. There we go. Pretty much all of that is gone now. Yeah, there's no more reaction, which is what we're looking for. So, let's get that off again. Hit it with some water. Just to rinse out that vinegar. Yeah, and that contact is looking so much better now. All of the crusties are gone. The metal is brightened up. You can still see a little bit of that corrosion in the back where the spring is mounted in. But I think we're in the clear. Yeah, okay. What I'm also going to do is just dunk this in alcohol a little bit. And that'll just drive out any water left over. Cool. So while we've got that here, let's give that another test. So pull our meter back in ohms mode. Let's test between the tip where the contact is and the spring again. And look at that, yep, 4 ohms. Yeah, look at that, 1.1 ohms. So yeah, we have restored that connector. Okay, there we go. Back together. All right, well, I think we're done here. So let's just clean up that flux. And let's get this back together. Before we do that, like I said, we just want to clean up some of this. So that glue for that glass just disintegrated immediately as soon as I touched it, and you can see it's all just terrible here. So I'm going to strip all this off, and I believe let's put a new one on. Okay, well that was a pain. I had to turn my house upside down before I found my tub of Game Boy parts. Of course it had fallen behind a shelf where I didn't see it, even though I looked there multiple times. Anyway, we are looking for replacement screens. Now I've got 2 types in here. I've got 2. These are actual glass. Or I've got a pile of the plastic ones. So I'm not a huge fan of the glass because they are just a touch thicker than the stock plastic, and they sit a little bit proud. They're really nice being glass and all, but yeah, they're just kind of, yeah. Anyway, let's grab one of these plastic ones out. So let's get this out of the way and take a look at our new screen. So that just fits in right there, slots in perfectly. It's a little bit dirty, just have to fix that up, but let's get this old glue off first. Now it's on there pretty tight, so what I might do is if I just use, there's the tip of my knife here, and let's just scrape that back. Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, there's going to be remnants. I'm not going to spend heaps of time tidying this up. It's underneath the other glue, and the other glue will level that out. Mostly just want to make sure it's relatively flush, just so that there's no pee under the mattress type. Pee under the mattress. Don't pee under the mattress. You know what I mean. The pee in the princess or whatever it is. One little bump can make the other screen not sit flush, you know. So the screen here has a nice sticky backing, and all we need to do is peel back one of these corners. Let's do it with my tweezers. There we go. And we should then be able to plug this into place. Like so. And there's our new protectant. It is a little bit darker than the stock grey, so it is obvious that it's not the same, but yeah, it's good enough for government work. So then just be able to peel this one back. And there is our Game Boy screen. And there you go. Alright, now I'm just going to give the rest of this a good clean. Yet again, a little bit more thinner. And some more Windex. All in all, it's looking pretty good. A little bit of tidying left to do and little grooves and stuff, but yeah, I think we can get this back together. Let's start with the guts of the board here. This will go in like that, and down there. As always, when you're putting a metal screw into a plastic case, turn it backwards until you feel the screw drop into the threads, and then drive it back forwards. Okay, it is time to reassemble. We have our new screen, we have our buttons, the board is back together, nice and secured. The back of the monitor, or the screen I should say, is in now. I just want to give that a quick wipe down. Just a dry lint-free cloth. Get rid of any dust and debris that may have been on the screen before we put it back in. Now, come in and flip it over. Make sure the speaker is underneath the PCB, and then push the board in place. Now, that like so, let's put some covers down and get all of these screws back in. Okay. Then, last thing I want to do, you can see how the screen is kind of shitty and it has this little scratch on it. That is because there is a plastic protecting on it. What I'm going to do is peel that layer off to get to the pristine plastic underneath. And there we go. Gorgeous. Probably should have done that afterwards, but I like it. Done now. And cut in. Together. Let's pop the last two batteries in. Pop in our game, Kirby. Oh, that's already on. There we go. Perfect. at that. Volume's still working excellently. The battery on this game needs a refresh. But there you go. Yeah. Now I can say the screen is a bit toasted, a little in the corners here. It's a bit worn out. It's not perfect as I would want it to be. So this one is a good candidate for an IPS replacement. But all in all, the bigger problems, like the battery's not working, have been resolved. So let's get this all the way back together. Job done. Now, as a bonus, let's take a look at this guy. So we need our game bit. This smaller one. Okay. There we go. So we need to replace that battery. Now, I do believe I have some here. There they are. Get one of those out. So let's get to replacing. Let's just remember the way that went. Pop our new battery in place. And then reflow the other side. Easy peasy. Now this is I believe it is a CR 1616. That means it is 16 millimeters in diameter, and no, sorry, 1.6 millimeters in diameter and 16 millimeters in height. And similar replacement. Done. All right. Now, if you'll excuse me, got some Kirby to play.